For every beloved hero in Hawkins, Indiana, there's a monster from the Upside Down that still gives us nightmares. Today, we're going to rank every single monster in Stranger Things from the absolute weakest to the undisputed, most powerful of them all. 10. The Demobats. Let's start at the bottom of the food chain with the Demobats. Right off the bat, I'm not sorry for the pun. These guys feel like the minions you fight in the first level of a video game. Introduced in Season 4, they're essentially Vecna's flying monkeys, swarming around the Upside Down and acting as his eyes and ears. They look creepy enough, like a cross between a bat and a shriveled-up Demogorgon, and they have these nasty tails they use to strangle people. Their main strength is in their numbers. One Demobat probably isn't a huge deal, but a whole swarm of them? That's a different story. We saw them nearly take out Steve Harrington, swarming him and biting him until he looked like he'd gone a few rounds with a cheese grater. And of course, we have to talk about Eddie Munson. These winged menaces were responsible for one of the most heartbreaking deaths in the entire series. Eddie went out like a true hero, shredding Metallica to distract them. But it was the Demobats that ultimately brought him down. For that alone, they deserve a spot on the list. But here's why they're ranked the weakest. They're still just bats. Compared to a 10-foot-tall flower-faced monster or a 30-foot-tall creature made of melted people, they just don't have that same, oh crap, we're all gonna die factor. Steve survived a massive attack, and while they were deadly to Eddie, they feel more like a dangerous pest than a primary threat. They're Vecna's attack dogs, but they're still on a leash. 9. The Vines. If the Demobats are the guard dogs of the Upside Down, then the Vines are the creepy, sentient wallpaper. These things are everywhere in the toxic dimension, snaking across the ground, hanging from ceilings, and generally just making the place look even more unwelcoming. As part of the hive mind, they're all connected, acting like the nervous system of the Upside Down. We've seen them in action since Season 1. Remember when Joyce and Hopper found Will? He was tangled up in these things with a massive vine shoved down his throat. They don't just sit there either. They can move, grab people, and restrain them. Hopper learned this the hard way in Season 2 when he got trapped in the tunnels and was almost choked out by a cluster of them. In Season 4, they basically acted as Vecna's helpers, holding his victims in place while he did his whole mind curse thing. So why are they so low on the list? Because ultimately, they're more of an environmental hazard than a monster you fight. They're a tool used by bigger, badder things. Their biggest weakness is a pretty common one: fire. As we saw when Nancy, Steve, and Robin started torching them, they shrivel up pretty quickly when faced with a little heat. They're incredibly creepy and definitely dangerous if they catch you off guard, but you're not going to see a vine as the final boss of a season. They're the trap, not the monster waiting at the end of it. 8. The Demodogs. Now we're getting into some serious threats. The Demodogs were the main antagonists of Season 2, and they were a perfect evolution of the monster concept. They're basically Demogorgons in their awkward teenage phase, smaller, faster, and they run on all fours like a rabid dog from hell. What they lack in the sheer size of a full-grown Demogorgon, they more than make up for in speed and numbers. One Demodog is a problem. A whole pack of them? That's a massacre. We saw just how devastating they could be during the attack on Hawkins' lab. They swarmed the facility, tearing through soldiers like they were nothing. This is also where we got one of the most gut-wrenching deaths in the show's history. Bob Newby. Poor, heroic Bob. He saved everyone, he had the whole plan figured out, and just when he was about to make it to safety, a pack of these things turned him into a chew toy. It was brutal, graphic, and proved that these puppies were not to be messed with. The most interesting thing about the Demodogs, though, came from Dustin's little pet, Dart. By raising Dart from a tiny pollywog, Dustin formed a genuine bond with it. That connection, built on a shared love of Three Musketeers bars, actually paid off. In the tunnels, a fully grown Dart recognized Dustin and let the party pass without a fight. Still, they're essentially just immature Demogorgons, a stepping stone to bigger and badder things, which is why they land here on the list. The Hospital Monster Season 3 is when Stranger Things decided to crank the body horror up to 11. And the Hospital Monster was our first terrifying taste of that. This thing is genuinely one of the most disgusting creatures the Duffer Brothers have ever cooked up. It felt like it crawled straight out of a classic 80s horror movie like John Carpenter's The Thing. The scene where it forms is unforgettable. Nancy and Jonathan are fighting their possessed bosses from the newspaper, Tom and Bruce. The fight is already tense, but then their bodies start to convulse and then just dissolve. They melt into these pulsating puddles of bloody goo, bones and all, and then slither together to form this grotesque, multi-limbed monster. It's utterly revolting and absolutely terrifying. This creature was a formidable foe. It was strong enough to throw Jonathan across a room and agile enough to melt itself down to ooze under a door to get to Nancy. It was a relentless, screeching nightmare of flesh. It took 11, at the height of her powers, to finally put it down by telekinetically flinging it out a window. The Hospital Monster was so effective because it was a preview of what was to come. It showed us what the Mind Flayer was capable of creating in our world, and it served as the perfect, stomach-churning appetizer for the season's main course. The Flayed. The Flayed are one of the most psychologically terrifying threats in the entire series because they aren't just monsters, they're us. They are the friends, family, and neighbors of Hawkins, taken over by the Mind Flayer and turned into its unwilling puppets. It all started with rats in Season 3 gathering in abandoned warehouses and exploding to become biomass for the Mind Flayer. But then it moved to humans, and that's when things got truly scary. Billy Hargrove became the primary host, the recruiter for the Mind Flayer's army. Dacre Montgomery's performance was incredible, showing the torment and struggle of a man trapped inside his own body, forced to do monstrous things. The sauna test scene, where the party tries to confirm if Billy is possessed, is one of the most intense sequences in the show. The real horror of the Flayed is the uncanny valley effect. They look human, they talk like humans, but they're off. The scene where the Flayed all stand silently in the street, waiting for their orders, is deeply unsettling. They represent a complete loss of self. While an individual Flayed person can be fought, their true danger lies in their purpose. They exist to build the Mind Flayer's army and, eventually, to sacrifice their own bodies, melting down to become part of a much larger, much more horrifying monster. They are the building blocks of a bigger threat, and that insidious nature makes them one of the series' most effective antagonists. 5. The Demogorgon. The Demogorgon. The OG, the one that started it all. Even after 4 seasons of increasingly complex monsters, the original Demogorgon still holds a special, terrifying place in our hearts. In Season 1, it was the perfect horror movie monster. We barely even saw it for the first few episodes, catching only glimpses of its shadowy form. This made it feel like a true predator from another world, something ancient, alien, and unstoppable. Its design is iconic. That flower petal face opening up to reveal endless rows of sharp teeth is a visual that is burned into the brain of every Stranger Things fan. It's a bipedal nightmare with incredible strength, long claws, and the eerie ability to create its own small gateways between our world and the Upside Down. It can sense a single drop of blood from miles away, making it the ultimate hunter. The scenes of it stalking the halls of Hawkins Middle School or bursting through the wall of the Byers' home are classic moments of horror television. Over the seasons, the Demogorgon has been slightly demystified. We've seen them killed by Eleven, hurt by fire, and in Season 4, we saw one get taken down by Hopper with a freaking sword in a Russian gulag, which was, admittedly, one of the coolest scenes in the whole show. The fact that a regular, albeit very tough human, can now kill one with a medieval weapon is why it can't be higher on this list. But let's not forget the sheer terror it inspired in that first season. It set the standard for every monster that followed and remains one of the most frightening creatures to ever grace the small screen. 4. The Spider Monster, the Meat Flayer. If the hospital monster was the appetizer, the spider monster was the city-destroying main course. This thing is the terrifying culmination of everything the Mind Flayer was building in Season 3. Officially known as the Meat Flayer, this monster is what you get when you take dozens of flayed people, melt them down into a horrifying slurry of flesh and bone, and reassemble them into a 30-foot-tall spider-like beast. It is, without a doubt, one of the most visually spectacular and physically imposing monsters in the series. The final battle at the Starcourt Mall is legendary, and it's all thanks to this creature. Watching it smash through the glass ceiling of the mall, its grotesque body silhouetted against the neon lights, was a breathtaking moment. This monster tosses cars around like toys, smashes through walls with ease, and is relentless in its pursuit of Eleven. It's the physical embodiment of the Mind Flayer's rage and hatred, a walking, screeching engine of destruction. However, for all its immense power, it has one major flaw. It's kind of dumb. It's a puppet on a string, controlled entirely by the Mind Flayer. This means it can be distracted. The kids managed to hold it off for a surprisingly long time with a box of fireworks. It's a massive, powerful tank, but it's not a strategic thinker. Its defeat also required closing the gate to the Upside Down, cutting off its connection to the Mind Flayer's consciousness. Still, in terms of raw physical power and sheer scale, the spider monster is an absolute beast and easily one of the most formidable foes the Hawkins crew has ever faced. 3. The Thraws. Okay, I know what you're thinking. How can a little slug be ranked higher than a 30-foot monster made of melted people? Hear me out. The Thraws, those little slug-like creatures we first saw Will cough up at the end of Season 1, are not a physical threat. They are something much, much worse, an infection. They are the virus of the Upside Down. Think about it. A single tiny thrall that Will unknowingly brought back with him managed to possess him for almost all of Season 2. It turned him into a spy, using his eyes and ears to track the heroes. It manipulated him, tortured him from the inside, and used him to lead the soldiers into a deadly trap, which directly led to Bob's death. That is an insane amount of power and influence for a creature you could hold in the palm of your hand. They are the insidious first step in the Mind Flayer's plan for invasion. Without the Thralls, there are no Flayed. Without the Flayed, there's no hospital monster and no spider monster. The Thraws are the foundation of the Mind Flayer's entire army in our world. They are the seeds of corruption. Like the facehuggers from Alien, their true power isn't in their ability to fight you head-on. It's in their ability to get inside you, to take you over, and to use you to birth something far more monstrous. They are a subtle, silent, and absolutely terrifying threat, and their potential for destruction is almost limitless, making them one of the most dangerous things to ever emerge from the Upside Down. 2. The Mind Flayer. For 2 whole seasons, we thought the Mind Flayer was the ultimate villain. This massive, shadowy entity, looming over the Upside Down like some kind of cosmic horror god, was the puppet master behind everything. It's not just a monster, it's a consciousness, a sentient storm, the central brain of the hive mind that connects every single creature from the Upside Down. Our first real introduction to it was through Will's visions in Season 2. That giant, spider-like silhouette in the red, stormy sky of the Upside Down is a truly terrifying image. Unlike the other monsters, the Mind Flayer doesn't just want to kill, it wants to conquer and consume. It sees humanity as a virus and wants to spread its own consciousness across our world until everything is part of it. Its possession of Will showed how it could break someone down not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The spider monster in Season 3 was just a physical avatar, a probe sent to do its bidding. The true Mind Flayer is the entity itself, the vast and ancient intelligence floating in the void. In Season 4, we learned a shocking truth. Henry Creel, Vecna, discovered this swirling mass of dark particles and shaped it into the spider form we know, harnessing its power for his own ends. This might sound like it weakens the Mind Flayer, but I see it differently. It means the Mind Flayer is a power so immense that even a being as strong as Vecna chose to control it rather than destroy it. It is the ultimate weapon of the Upside Down. 1. Vecna. After years of fighting puppets and soldiers, Season 4 finally introduced us to the king. Vecna, formerly known as Henry Creel, formerly known as 001, is the true mastermind, the 5-star general of the Upside Down, and the most powerful and terrifying villain in Stranger Things. He's a character with a history, a motive, and a deep personal connection to Eleven. Vecna's power is on a whole different level. He's an incredibly powerful psychic, a dark mirror of Eleven's own abilities, but it's his method of killing that makes him so horrifying. He doesn't just attack you physically, he attacks you mentally. He invades your mind, finds your deepest traumas and fears, and forces you to relive them. He torments his victims, isolates them from their friends, and then, when they are at their most broken, he snaps their bodies in the most gruesome way imaginable. The sight of his victims floating in the air before their limbs twist and their eyes are destroyed is pure horror. He's the complete package. He has the raw telekinetic power to open gates to the Upside Down, the intelligence to devise a multi-season plan to take over the world, and the sadistic cruelty to enjoy every moment of it. He is the one who found the Mind Flayer and gave the hive mind a purpose. He is the one who created the army. He is the source of all the pain and suffering that has plagued Hawkins since the very beginning. He's intelligent, he's personal, and he's terrifying on every possible level, making him the undisputed strongest monster in all of Stranger Things. So there you have it, our ranking of every monster from Stranger Things, all the way from the weakest bat to the king of the Upside Down himself. Which monster gives you the most nightmares? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more Stranger Things content and theories, be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for our next video.